What's up, race team? I'm Taylor at Go Power Sports. Today I'm going to show you how to build the Taco 22 roller. You'll be able to buy this 3 different ways. We sell it frame and fork only, as a roller, or a complete bike where you get engine, clutch, chain, clutch guard, everything you need to make a running, riding Taco 22. So let's head back to the table. We'll get this thing built and show you exactly how easy it is to build your very own Taco mini bike. This is everything you just saw on that beautiful purple bike broken down into kit form. Everything you need to make a complete rolling Taco 22 mini bike. All you got to do from here is install the engine, clutch, chain, and the Taco 22 chain guard, and you are ready to rock and roll. So in this kit, you get frame, fork, the complete brake setup, which is pretty sweet. It's very, very simple. We went away from the original Taco 22 design on this and made it adjustable so that if you want to run the original 5-inch wheel size, you move it all the way back and you can run the original 5-inch. If you want to run like a big 6-inch tire, you'll move it all the way forward, and you got enough room to run pretty much whatever tire size you want on this kit. We are supplying it with the 410 350 by 6. It's got the tube already in there, period correct tire design, pretty sweet tire, rounds up really nicely, gives you a smooth ride. Obviously the Go Power Sports wheels. For this kit, we do supply it with the hole pattern for the hub already drilled and tapped. So after you build up your tire and wheel assemblies, all you got to do is use the supplied hardware and bolt this down. Very, very easy to do. After you get that bolted down, put on your split sprocket with the supplied hardware. We've got the throttle kit. You've got the grips, throttle housing, and the throttle cable, which this is for like a stock carburetor setup. If you're gonna run a Makuni or something like that, you'll have to get a different throttle cable with that barrel end on it. Kill switch, like we always say, you have to have a kill switch on a mini bike. Running over here, we've got foot peg covers. Also, the pegs act as your kickstand if you're running this tire size. If you're going up to like a 14.5 or a 15-inch tire, you might need a weld on a kickstand. We have had the 14.5-inch tires on here, and the peg was enough. The bike was leaning a little far, but it still works fine. You've got your neck bolt. One of the other changes we did on this was we increased the neck size to where we can use the bushings. Definitely an upgrade over just the steel neck bolt running on a steel tube. You've got these bushings in there now. It's going to smooth up your steering quite a bit. This is the return spring for the brake. You've got your axles with wheel spacers, bearings for the wheels, and the infamous Taco 22 lowers. These are awesome. Really sweet setup, gives you an old school feel. Taco 22 springs. These are powder coated in black. These are going to be the ones we supply with the kit. We also have them in a chrome powder coat, and we're going to be bringing them in raw as well, just in raw steel. So you can chrome them, zinc them, whatever you want to do. Easy kit to put together. Last but not least, Taco 22 seat. This is our first version of the seat. Soon we will have, for your Taco 22 enthusiasts, the hardcore guys, we're gonna have the 1-inch heat pleated top, which 1 inch is the correct spacing. The original seats were heat pleated, so it's going to be a super, super nice seat. This one, it's 1-inch spacing, but it is sewn into that tuck and roll pattern. So it still looks correct, and we did a really dramatic dovetail kick up on the back which is very reminiscent of the original seats. Super good look. Taper on the front to match the original seat. And then we did a big logo on the back. We tried a few different logo sizes. We took a vote across the company and we all like the big one. It just screams taco mini bike. No matter how far ahead of somebody you are, they're always gonna know you're on a taco. If you're doing the axles, you can use 15/16 tools or crescent wrenches, either one. We've got 3/4 inch for the neck bolt. So you'll need 2 3/4 inch wrenches. Again, on that, you can use crescent wrenches if you want, but I use a 3/4 inch wrench, 3/4 inch socket. I've got 1/2 inch for our 5/16 bolts, 7/16 for pretty much everything on the wheels. I've got 1/2 inch, I use this for the seat. If you have an American standard Allen wrench set, that's good. This is a 3/16, that's the only one we needed. Impact for ease, Sharpie for marking your seat pattern. Visually inspect, feel, or blow out your tires before you put the tubes in there. You gotta be able to air up your tires, your tubes. Snips, this wasn't necessarily for this video, but I did use it just to clean up the zip ties. Phillips head screwdriver, this is a number 2. Hammer for driving in the bearings, and then a 1/4 inch drill bit with a drill. That's everything. I'm ready to roll into it, Bernie. These are your standard 5/8 ID, 1 3/8 OD bearing. They almost always come with these little clips on there. Just remove those. Pretty simple. Start at the open end. I'm pulling out and up at like a 45-degree angle. I have seen people struggle getting those off, but it is pretty easy if you just pull at the right angle. If you have a press, use a press. That's the best way to get these in. If not, most people out there will not have like a bearing driver set or a press. So you never want to hit directly on that inner race. You always want to hit out here around the outside. So just work it in around the perimeter, get it started, and then you can start hitting it harder. And you will hear a sound difference when it bottoms out against this shoulder. Perfect. As you can see, these are a really nice press fit. Really, really nice press fit on these wheels. The machining on these is phenomenal. And I don't know if you're gonna be able to see if I can keep my finger still enough. I'm shaking. They spin really, really, really true. This is a pretty simple little cheap kit that we've got that I really like to use. Or if you have a socket, a pretty good sized socket that is the same OD as these bearings, that works as well. Now for assembly. I always blow out the tire before assembly. If there's even the smallest piece of anything in there, it can wear on your tube. and eventually cause a slow leak and a flat. That's blown off. Tube feels clean. I just shot air in there because you want your tube to be shaped up pretty well for when you put your wheel halves in. So I shoot more than enough air and then let it out until it has shrunk to, you know, a really good size. You do not want to pinch the tube as you're putting this together. You don't want too much air because then your tube swells and you will pinch it as you bolt these together. You don't want too little air because it will do the same thing. It'll like wrinkle and then pinch. This one's going to be our front wheel assembly. If you look on these wheels, it's almost impossible to mess this up. They fit together so well. When your valve stem slots line up, your holes are lined up. Super, super easy. And those little tabs on there keep everything centered. There we go. And you always want to do a visual check. You want to feel in there. I've got the perfect air pressure in this tube where I know it's not coming through that crack. You want to make sure you hear metal on metal. If you hear that your tube is pinched in there, take everything back apart, take some air out, or put more air in, whatever the case. So, those are our bolts coming through, so we know everything's lined up. And as you can see, these are shaped for a 1/4 inch nut. Those just sit down in there, and you know, you don't have to use a wrench or anything. These are recessed, so put your nut in there, see it fits perfect. You need a 3/16 Allen for the nut, for the bolts that we supply with this. So I'm going to start everything by hand. I push the nut down into that recess and then start the bolt. Get all of them started all the way around, and then we'll go in and tighten it all up evenly. I'm just going to run it down to where you start feeling it bottom out. Do that all the way around, and then I'll go through and do the final tightening. So I'm also going to check and make sure the valve stem is centered in that slot. You don't want your wheel halves putting your valve stem or your tube in a bind. So as I was tightening it, my wheel twisted some. I'm going to recenter it on the valve stem. That's good. I like to do quite a bit of air at first, probably 25, 30 pounds, just to make sure your tire sits nicely all the way around against the wheel. You want it to be seated so that it's spinning as true as possible. Then when you go on your assembly, you'll get it to whatever air pressure you want. I always check for a leak. If you see any bubbles, you'll need to go in and tighten your core There's no bubbles, we know we're good. There's no leak. Beautiful. Assembly number 1. So I already talked y'all through the first one. I'm just gonna knock this one out. Oh, you dummy. I'm glad that happened so I can walk y'all through it. You do not want your valve stem on the drilled and tapped side of the wheel, because that is the side that your drum is going on. So valve stem should be poking out the other side. After I got done tightening the wheel, my valve stem is really off. So you gotta spin it around till it's centered. Centered nicely. No leaks. So now we're going to do our hub, sprocket, and then bolt that whole assembly onto the wheel. So with the split sprocket, see these hash marks over here on my side? You gotta line those up. If you don't, your teeth spacing will be off on both sides. See how that side is way bigger than this side over here? That is perfect. Line it up with the holes. Pretty easy. You've got 6 1/4-20 bolts and lock nuts. The 1/4-28 bolts, which there's 4 of, those will be to bolt the hub and sprocket assembly to the wheel. Just getting everything started by hand, making sure it's threading in there nice and smooth. Then we'll run everything flush with the tools and then kind of line up the sprockets together and do our final tightening. So as you can see, I can still move the sprocket around. You want to center it as much as possible. Make sure your hashes are lined up. Make sure your inside is lined up, and then tighten. I'm going to do this part by hand. Hash is lined up. Your inside is lined up. That looks good. I have this on the weakest setting. I'm not torquing the heck out of it. Bueno. Line up your 4 holes on the hub with the 4 holes on the wheel. And then use your 1/4-28 bolt. Lock washer first, then flat washer. And start these by hand. They all feel really good, smooth. Rear Taco 22 tire and wheel assembly. Neck bolt kit. You've got the 2 bushings, 3 washers. We got to put our bushings in the neck first. Nice fit. Slide right in. very, very gently. So now we can put our forks on. In everything manufactured, there's tolerances. So there's going to be some sort of gap in between your triples and the neck bushings. You're gonna want to close up that gap. This one looks like one washer is gonna be perfect. So we're gonna do a washer on top. One washer in between the bottom bushing and the triple. And then one washer on the bottom. Now these are a hair long because we wanted as much unthreaded shaft coming through the bushings as possible. So if you want to cut off the excess, please do so. To tighten these, this is a 1/2 inch bolt and nut. So you're going to need a 3/4 set of wrenches or socket. If you go too tight, you will feel that when you ride. So you want the perfect pressure on here. That's pretty good. I mean, it's free. And all the slack is taken up. Perfect. We are going to thread our springs onto the lowers. That can be a little tricky near the end, so I just put the end in a vise. Very nice. Bottom them out. Nice. Then, on the other side, slide your bolt through. And thread your spring up through here. We're going to start there. You want your height to be the same side to side, so after we get them both in there, you can do minor adjustments to make sure they're at the same height off the table. Make sure your forks are straight. That looks good. So from here we got our front axle. Your front spacers are the same side, same length side to side. Fantastic. Yeah, it looks killer. If you have the right size socket and wrench, it's 15/16. I know a lot of people don't have that. That's a little tight now. It will free up. There's no crush sleeve in between these bearings, but we do have a lock nut. So you don't want to go crazy tight. I feel like that's good. That's going to free up. Phillips head screwdriver to take apart the throttle housing. Cable housing into the throttle housing. Throttle cable right there. Put the guide in, put the barrel into the tube. Like so. Cap. You don't want the end of your throttle tube rubbing on the end of the bar. So bottom it out, back up, hair, then tighten. Now we're not doing any final adjustments on this cable, obviously. That'll be in part 2, where we're assembling the full painted, finished out engine, clutch, chain guard version. For this, we're gonna leave it down and dirty. You can use that same screwdriver for the kill switch. Perfect. Now with that grip on, we can come in and tighten our kill switch.
And it is going into plastic.
Yes.
So be careful.
See, look at you. You're ready.
I'm ready.
Like Bernie said, this is threading into plastic. These are a really coarse screw. You don't have to go crazy, just bottom them out and you are done. Let's go ahead and finagle the brake in there. So we want the brake lever on this left side. Boom. Washer, cotter pin. I am just going to barely bend this because we're going to take it apart for powder coat. Okay. Now the pegs with this tire and wheel setup, they are a good length to also double as your kickstand if you want. And we had to go longer than like the original Taco 22 because they came with a completely upright flathead engine and they didn't have the shroud sticking out so far. For our current engines that are readily available, like the Tillotson, we had to make the pegs a little bit longer. If you want to trim them after you've ridden it and you know how short you want to go, then you can. All right, rear wheel assembly. We already built this earlier in the video. It is ready to go. Sprocket is going to go on the left side of the bike. Valve stem's coming out the right, just like we did on the front so we can match. We're going to take our bolt through from left to right so bolt heads are on the same side. Spacers for the rear. You have a longer one and a shorter one. This one is 2.5 inches. This one is 2.4 inches. Your longer one is going to go on the left side. Your shorter one is going to go on the right side. So long left, short right. Long left. Perfect. So if you have 15/16, just like on the front, this is the same size axle. 15/16 tools. If not, 2 crescent wrenches will work just fine. I always like to go too tight and then back off from there, just to make sure everything is seated nicely. That's pretty good. So now we can get our brake on here. You've got 2 5/16 bolts, 2 5/16 washers, and 2 5/16 nylon lock nuts. I believe there's only 2 of these in the kit. Yeah, everything else pretty much 1/4 inch, and then the axles. So your 5/16 stuff, it is for the brake.
For the new kids who've never seen scrub brakes before.
Pretty old school, dude. It is a piece of metal that rubs against your tire and stops. So I'm doing the bolts and washers on the top, lock nut on the bottom. So this is pretty much your 410 350 by 6 setup. If you're running a 5-inch wheel with the smaller tire, you would use this furthest hole. We didn't do just a straight slot because we were worried about slippage. So we did a snowman shape.
Yeah.
Is that what we're?
Caterpillar? Ooh.
Caterpillar.
Yeah.
I like that. Caterpillar shape. It's enough to have distinct hole patterns, and if one of these bolts comes loose, it's not going to you won't lose all your braking power. But if you tighten these up correctly, you will never have that issue. So I've got both of them started by hand. Now we'll go in and tighten it. These are going to be 1/2 inch. If you have 13, that will work as well. There is a tiny, tiny bit of slop in these holes. They're just a little oversized. So I'm going to run them both flush and then square up the pad and everything and do a final tightening. That's like perfect. You barely gotta press. So like I said, these are a nylon lock nut. If you get them tight, they will not fall off. Good. Good. Return spring. You don't want this just flopping around, rubbing on your brake. So there's a hole. Hop over here, Bernie. Right there. Boom. Nice return action, clean. If you want, we've already mocked this up with an engine, rode it. We found that the slot was perfect to do it. More than likely, your engine is not going to be all the way back in the slot. So once you get your chain on, you scoot your engine up to tension your chain. You have room back here to do that. If you don't, for some reason, drill you a hole somewhere near the rear of this plate, and then you can just put your spring in there. As of now, we do not have the grips to go on this foot lever. They are incoming. We've got a few different ones that we're going to check out. We want it to be period correct, as close to the original as possible. So this will be coming very, very soon. We have our super coarse threaded 1/2 inch bolts, almost more like a screw. 4 of them. Like every bike we do, you want to center up your seat as good as you can. So the width is pretty much puts the edge of your seat right in the middle of these 7/8 tubes. So I want to do that on the back as well. Take your time doing this. If you don't, it's one of the first things people will see with your build if your seat is super, super crooked. Look at it from all angles. So now you're gonna take a Sharpie, you're gonna mark your holes on the bottom of the seat. Now we need a drill bits. You're going to use a 1/4 inch drill bit. and you want to make sure you get them perfectly straight. I don't know how to explain it. When you puncture through the end of the board, it will want to suck your bit in. You want to make sure you don't let it do that, because you can drill all the way through your material. So I like to keep the drill kind of tight to my body, so as it goes through, you have really good control of it. Half-inch socket. Before you mount the seat on your bike, I like to pre-thread the board with one of the bolts. Make sure you get it straight. If you do this now, it's going to make it a lot easier when you get the seat on your bike. I do like to start all of these by hand. Use a longer half-inch socket. Get it started in the hole and thread it in. Make sure you start it by hand like I'm doing, because if you just go in there with an impact, you might get it a little crooked. If you go in there crooked, you could crack the board, or like we do everything, get everything started first before you tighten any one of them individually. I use an impact on these quite often in the lowest setting, but I do not recommend that to you guys. Just use a ratchet, go nice and slow. So I'm gonna get everything bottomed out, and then I'm gonna re-look at the seat, square everything up to the frame, and then do a final tightening. Don't do it blind either. Don't just be standing up here as you tighten. You want to visually watch when your board bottoms out on these brackets. So when it bottoms out, you don't want to go much more. Maybe, I don't know, like 1/8 of a turn. So here you have it. This is the Taco 22 fully assembled roller version, available on gopowersports.com. Check the link below in the description. It'll take you right to the product page. Please like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be doing a bunch of cool builds on these, so let us know what kind of colors you want to see, what kind of engines you want to see on there. If you want to see different tire and wheel packages, we might mess around with like some DWT wheels with some billet hubs. So let us know. Hit up the comments. Let us know what you think about this build. We're trying to revive the Taco name, and I think so far we are hitting it out of the park. So stay tuned for video 2. From here, we're going to tear it apart. We're going to take it to powder coat, do some little tweaks here and there. We're going to do a pretty sweet purple on this. All the original Tacos were sold in purple.